Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Get It Straight. This monthly meeting is hosted by the White Sands Residents Association, and we often invite members of administration to share information that's important to all of us. As usual, we begin with photos of new residents as they become available. We have several to share with you this month, some of whom are in the audience. Willa Schulten and Carl Bokema moved into 302 on July 17th. They are in the back row there. While both are originally from Holland, they came to us from our sister community, Terraces of Los Gatos, and they were drawn by the idea of living by the ocean. Willa taught art at San Jose State and is herself an accomplished nationally exhibited artist of jewelry and sculpture. And Carl is a physicist, another physicist. He worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory before moving to teach and do research at San Diego State. I think we must have at least, 5 or 6 physicists now. We're getting quite a nucleus. Oh dear, that was supposed to be a joke, wasn't it? Renita Greenberg moved into 390 on July 22nd. I do not see Renita here. Moving from her longtime home in Solana Beach. Originally from Colorado, she and her late husband founded and operated an insurance and financial services company for many years. She's an inveterate traveler and a lifelong community and social activist for everything from the League of Women Voters to the Birch Aquarium. Helgi and Alan Job moved into 348 on July 24th. Helgi's a native of Estonia, while Alan was born in Los Angeles, and they met at the Salk Institute, where Helgi was working in neurobiology. Alan attended Stanford and UCSD and earned a BA, MD, and a PhD, and his career was as an academic pediatrician focused on respiratory distress syndrome and reducing infant mortality. And they relocated from Cincinnati, Ohio. And then our newest resident, who is also here today, is Dorothy Weber. Wave, Dorothy. She moved into 137 on July 30th, relocating from Palos Verdes. And she's a native of Long Beach and lived in Kentucky and Illinois before settling in Palos Verdes. Dorothy loves Disney cruises with her children and grandchildren. So when you see these newest residents, please make them feel welcome in their new home. We have one regular team milestone to recognize this month. Luis de Jesus, who's one of our cooks, marked 10 years at White Sands on August 4th. So when you see him on the line, please thank him for his dedication to White Sands and the residents. And a very special shout out to this gentleman, Fernando Flores, our ever so reliable and smiling houseman. This Saturday, he will mark 37 years at White Sands. And you may remember when he made 35 years, he got his own parking space. And he muttered about retiring after that and spending time with his grandchildren. But every morning when I see him, I'm delighted that he's still here. News from the council. We had our meeting this morning and we reappointed 2 chairs. Carolyn Shadle will be re-chairing the Concerned Seniors Making a Difference once again. I am chair of New Resident Hospitality. And in a change, Jay Coonan was appointed to be the chair of the REAP Natasha Scholars Committee, replacing Carolyn Downey. Carolyn has, after many years chairing multiple committees and serving on them, Carolyn has decided to pull back. And so she's even stepping down as chair of the Human Good Foundation Board next year. Lucky for us, she's going to stay on and continue to chair the Philanthropy Committee. And I just,
Until we find a replacement.
oh, okay. Yeah, she keeps asking and everybody says no. But I just like to thank Carolyn for everything that you've done and continue to do to enrich White Sands for all the residents and team members.
Thank you.
Tech support. We all love Luis and we would happily clone him. So we'd have two of him. But for now, he's all we have to help both residents and team members. So what we're asking is residents with tech support issues, first of all, make sure that you put in a work order on Cubigo so that Luis gets credit for everything he does. That's the only way that Shelley will be able to justify requesting an additional position. But meanwhile, we're going to be asking residents who are themselves tech savvy if they would be willing to help residents with phones, printers, computers, and particularly on times when Luis is not available. So I'm going to put a form, a resident volunteer form out on Gaggle Mail. And if you're interested in helping, please fill it out and put it back in mailbox 200. And then we'll share this list with the residents. And I'm also going to put some of the forms out by the mailboxes. And sticking with technology for a minute, I think many residents were a little bit fogged when Dawn was here talking about open roaming and exactly what open roaming meant and how to access it. And Jay Coonan, who is the council's designated representative to administration on internet and wireless technology, has created a one-page explanation of what open roaming is and how to connect to it. Essentially, it lets you maintain your cell phone contact when you're out and about, whether you're on campus or whether you're off campus, without dropping the call. And you only need to connect one time, and then it will always go back and look for that. The AT&T, you use HG-Sail network. And if you have T-Mobile, there's something called T-Mobile Passpoint. And if you're Verizon, you're out of luck. It doesn't work for Verizon, but you can go to T-Mobile or AT&T and probably get a pretty good deal. So I will put these forms out by the mailboxes as well. One more announcement. In response to resident requests for more dining options and extended hours, did you know that you can now find somewhere to eat from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, 5 days a week? Monday through Friday. Yeah, Monday through Friday. So from 7 to 9, you can go to the Water's Edge for breakfast. From 9 until 4, you can go to the bistro for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Dinner is late lunch, early dinner, snacks or grab and go. And then at 4 o'clock, you can go to the bar where they have drinks and bar food. And then at 4:45 to 7, you can go to the Water's Edge for dinner. So I would like to thank Shelley for pursuing this and the dining team for figuring out how to staff the extended hours for these dining options. Unfortunately, we can't do the same thing on the weekend, but we still have 4 venues available on the weekend unless it's a holiday. Right. Yes.
Is still served in Water's Edge dining room
Oh,
from 11:30.
I guess I forgot that. Whoops. But you can still eat from 7 to 7. Yes, thank you. Okay, now, as a final act of outgoing chair of the REAP committee, Carolyn Downey is here to give us an update on the current campaign. And we just need to just go ahead. First one.
This one, here? Okay.
And then we just push the button.
Well, I know you are waiting in bated breath as to the results of our campaign. Oh, okay. Hello. I have unbelievable news regarding our campaign. Our goal was $100,000. Our actual campaign raised, as of yesterday, $109,000, but wait, we had a $10,000 pledge challenge, and we thank the people who put that together for us because we now have a total of 119,000. Congratulations to each of you for your generosity with this program. We are just ecstatic that we almost did 120% of our goal, which was, and you did that for our team members. A little bit of information, we had 82 gifts from 115 donors. That's a very nice participation rate. We have couples that counted, we counted two. That's how we can have 82 and then 115. And then we had 12 repeat donors. After the match came, we had 12 people give again. And that's really remarkable. And if you were one of those individuals, thank you so very, very much for doing that. And then the last piece of information was we had 55 new donors to REAP for the first time. Now, there's one other thing that's not, I think that's the end of the slide. There's one other thing I would mention, and that is we also received a CGA whose beneficiary will be REAP. And so we can't even count that in the total because we hope that person lives a long time. But with CGAs, I have one, I think many of you have some charitable gift annuities. You can indicate who your recipient will be of any remaining dollars that still might be in the account once you pass. And we have a person who made a CGA donation for REAP. And I would just encourage you to be thinking about that. In the past, we have been talking about using benevolence, and we still want you to think about that, but also we want you to think about scholarships for our team members too. So one other thing I would say is from now on, we're going to have what's considered a very soft campaign. The soft campaign means you get a brochure every year with an opportunity to remind you to give. And we hope each 115 of you will put a little bit of money into REAP each year. Thank you very much.
This is the first time we've done a REAP campaign, so we really had no idea what was gonna happen, and so we're thrilled at the results. Continuing on with our committee clusters that are under the auspices of the Resident Council, Michelle Berry is here to talk briefly about her games cluster. Thank you. You know how to just push this, go to each one.
Shift or
No,
arrow?
the arrow.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I looked up the difference between a game and a puzzle and discovered that the first item that we have up here is not a game, but a puzzle. And it's Bridge Quiz. It is published in a paper and has been for years, but as time has changed, computer and other games have taken over some of that. And many newspapers have stopped publishing a quiz or even a bridge column at all. And it is, we get a copy in the San Diego Union Tribune on Saturday with the quiz, 6 easy questions written by a fellow named Bob Jones. And we don't always agree with him. So everybody has a piece of paper and you can write down what your bid is and turn it in, and I do a tally, and we look to see then on Monday what his answers were. And we don't always agree, and we're at about 50% of agreement. Some of the famous people who wrote Bridge Quiz was, of course, one of the masters, Charles Gorn, and he wrote for the Chicago Tribune. And then later, Omar Sharif, and I'm sorry, I don't know which newspaper he supported. And that's Bridge Quiz. The next item up, I'll get there. We have Mahjong with Irene Fellers, Linda Dotson, and Mary Ryan as co-chairs. And we're thankful for the Fellers, Irene and Eduardo, who kicked this off for us and sets this up. It takes 4 people to play, and you usually do it at a table. And you're playing not with cards, but with these delicate, artfully carved tiles. It's been around since the 19th century, and it's played worldwide. And again, it's also played a lot on computer, which I thought was interesting, having played Mahjong, so I wasn't sure how that might fit. Also recently in I think it is the latest Sandpiper edition, Irene probably and Eduardo probably did a little bit too, is a very nice, thorough article about Mahjong and the benefits of it. And if you haven't read it, I would recommend that you spend a little time with that, because it's very enlightening, and it's not one of the hardest games to learn, which I was intrigued by. It goes counterclockwise, so if you're a left-right confused person, which I have a little difficulty with, then I had difficulty with Mahjong. Another group we have is Party Bridge, and Mitzi Lefton and Anne Spackman co-chair that. This has been around since the early 16th century in England. It's a card game. You play with 4 people. You play with a partner against other partners. It's considered fairly social. There is some skill level, and then there's luck. And the luck part is what you get on the cards you're dealt. Sometimes you get spectacular cards, and other times they're just the pits.
Yeah.
Right.
Mike likes it.
Sure. We have ping pong. Ping pong is, again, originally from England. And in the late 19th century, it was it was a takeoff on lawn tennis. And they wanted something to do after dinner as a parlor game. And they got very clever on using cigar box lids as a paddle and corks for the balls. And 20 or 30 years later, they discovered that there were these balls made out of some kind of plastic that you could buy and use, and so much more usable. I used to think that ping pong was fairly a gentle, easy game until I watched the ping pong tournaments in the Olympics. And I think that somebody can deliver a tennis ball at 105 miles an hour, and those ping pong balls, they stand way back and just whap it. They were first in the Olympics in 1988. We have poker. And I always thought that poker was original with the cowboys, but oh no. This again was an activity that was started in the 18th century, and it was very popular during the Civil War. And of course, during all wars, it was something a pack of cards you could carry with you and round up a couple of people to play, but it only takes another person, not 4. And then it spread throughout the Mississippi region because of the riverboats and what were the guys, the river, I want to say drifters, that's probably not correct. There are a variety of ways of play, different names. One called One in the Hole. I have absolutely no idea what that means. And the word poker is a German word Pochen, P-O-C-H-E-N, which stands for brag or blunt. The trivia, the high trivia on this is that it was used in Star Trek for about 10 episodes 1 year. And we have, where am I? One more picture, you're right. And we have men and women who play this. A lot of us think it's a man's game only, but there are a couple of ladies who've shown up and they proved that they too can play blunt. We have a good time with the games and the puzzles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Now I am pleased to welcome Eileen Carandang. She is our newly married, new MSW graduate, thanks to some scholarships from REAP. And she's now officially the White Sands social worker. So she's here today without her sidekick, Nancy Cardenas, who's on vacation, to tell you about what social services can offer to residents and family members. Eileen.
Yeah, you want to be so that you can see that.
Okay. Sorry.
So like that.
All right. Hi. How can I follow Michelle after such fun conversations? And here I am coming with a little bit more serious, but hopefully it'll be informative for each of you. So thank you for the welcome. Yes, I'm Eileen, the social worker. Can you hear me okay? Good? Okay. Hi. And so, yes, I've been here for 16 years, but been in the social services role for about, I believe it's about 4 years. So I'm going to do just a broad overview of social services, who we are, what we do, and how we could support you. And you may know, or you might notice some of the information slightly broad, but that's intentional. If you look around the room, if you look on Zoom on each person on the screen, everyone's a bit different preferences, different values, different goals and needs. And so we try to meet you where you're at. And that's why some of the information is slightly broad. So what is social services? It refers to a broad range of support designed to provide person-centered care, meet your individual needs, improve well-being, and enhance quality of life. And here at White Sands, that consists of myself, the social worker, and then Nancy Cardenas. And yes, she's on vacation. So she has a huge role here, and many of you may know her just even by voice. If you've made an appointment for podiatry, for the hearing specialist, for the psychologist, for the psychiatric nurse practitioner, for the dentist, then you've probably spoken with her on the phone. She's the one that you talk to schedule these appointments. So I wish she was here so she could show you her face, but she is on Cubigo if you do need to talk with her. Information is there. And then I'll also provide you her information at the end of these slides. So she does a lot of the logistical, practical things in social services. She hooks you up with resources if you need that. She helps, again, schedule appointments or meetings if social services is involved. And then, of course, does some one-on-one interactions with the residents. With the social worker, we do overlap a little bit with our work, and we collaborate closely together. But often what the social worker does is more of a direct practice, meets with you one-on-one, finds out at hand, what do you need? What are ways that we could support you? So that's what we do. And more about our role. So our role falls into these 3 categories. While we do many different things, they pretty much fall in these categories. So we provide social support. We collaborate with residents, families, and other departments as it's needed. And then we serve as mandated reporters to ensure safety and well-being. And so I will break these down to kind of help understand what this means. So looking at providing social support. That's an umbrella term of support that refers to assistance, care, and resources, and there are 4 types. That's instrumental, advocacy, emotional, and psychosocial. So I'm further going to break that down. So social support, instrumental. What that means is having accessible resources and services for you. And we've got some here on the list that are the ones that we usually get questions about. You see here, I'm kind of going out of order. We've got the podiatry, hearing specialist, psychologist, psychiatric nurse practitioner, which I've mentioned to you, that's something that is accessible to you here and that you would contact Nancy to schedule. But if you've already established your relationships with a podiatrist outside of White Sands, we want to encourage you to continue that too. So you'll start to notice a theme with what I'm sharing is these resources are here for you, but it's still your choice and preference of who you'd like to choose. So you could use some of these specialists that we bring here to White Sands. You also have your own. Other questions that we typically get are for the Advanced Healthcare Directive. Many of you already have completed that, and thank you, because that is the way you communicate with us what your wishes are. On that form, you also let us know who your durable power of attorney for healthcare is. You'll often hear us say DPOA for healthcare. That informs us who we need to reach out to in order to make your wishes known, should you be in a place where you are unable at the time to do that. An example of that would be you're in the middle of a coma and you can't speak out your wishes. Then we would find out on that advance directive, who do we need to call to find out, what your wishes are, and they would advocate that directive to us and for you. The fiduciary, we have a list of fiduciaries, and what a fiduciary is, it is a person that is licensed, and it's their legal duty to act in your best interest for both your, either your healthcare or your finances, or both. So someone who would typically want a fiduciary is somebody who may not have a family member or a loved one to act as that DPOA for healthcare or finances. It is also another reason why someone might have a fiduciary is if they prefer to not have a family member or a loved one do it. And that's a preference, right? Sometimes people may just want their family to exude that love with them, but not have these responsibilities to make these decisions. So there's always preferences. So we have a list for you going. And then the mortuary and hospice information, we've also got a list to provide you if you have questions, if you'd like to arrange that as well. And so with those first 4, those are there for you as well. Again, back to preferences, these are available to you and we will provide that. What is not the role of social services is that we would tell you who to put as your informed decision maker, or we would tell you who you should choose as your fiduciary or which hospice you should choose. That, I want to be very clear, that's not our role, because then it shows that it's not your preference and your wishes. Again, it's about you. So we would then point you towards that information and you choose and what your preferences are. For scams, typically we'd do this with you. We wouldn't, if we're aware that you've been scammed and become a victim, then what social services, so Nancy or myself will go to you. We'll find out what happened. Everything is confidential. And then from there, we'll figure out what are the next steps, whether we need to call the appropriate authorities, which can be the local law enforcement. And then if it's an international scam, which is typically phone or online scams, we would connect you to, it's called the IC3, the Crime Complaint Center. And we put in a report, but that can be done with us. We wouldn't have you do it alone unless that is what you would like to do. Skipping over the patient rights advocate, that is also, as you may know, as the ombudsman. So the ombudsman, they are an independent advocate that works for the County of San Diego, and White Sands is not affiliated with them. And that's a good thing because they are here for you. So if you ever feel that you are treated unfairly, if you feel mistreated, if you just need someone to hear you out, then we have an ombudsman who can meet with you. And their phone number is listed throughout White Sands, so I could help direct if you need that number, or you could come to us and we could provide that for you. And then connecting you to in-house resources. And we've got a great one with Nicole Scribner. She is the Good at Home supervisor. And so that would be an example of connecting you to the resource. Advocacy. So we are here to support you again. I'm going to hear that word so many times. Working together to make sure your rights, your choices, and needs are respected and heard. And let's see. So the examples we have here are healthcare navigation, legal rights and protection, and raising concerns responsibly. So healthcare navigation would be that. An example of that is we would support you in your informed decision. What that would look like is we would help you to understand your situation, that what might be going on, help you explore what kind of interventions or options that are available to you, and then get your questions answered. So it ensures that, that your healthcare, it aligns with your values and your wishes. And again, back to that advance directive, that would be helpful to have. So if you don't have that, or you've not given it to us, we do encourage you to give it to us. That way we have it on file. And when the time comes, we have it available to look at. And another example that I do get questions about regarding healthcare navigation is end of life planning. And I'm only going to briefly talk about it because it in itself, it could be its own topic. But I wanted to just clearly share what the role of social services is for that, as well as our health team. So end of life planning could include the Advanced Healthcare Directive. Again, you list your wishes and you list your DPOA for healthcare. It could also mean the PULSE, that bright pink form that you may have filled out with your doctor. It's the physician's order of life-sustaining treatment. That's something you would fill out with your doctor, and it's typically the immediate form of a directive to communicate with the hospital. And then exploring specific options like MAID, which is Medical Assistance Aid in Dying, or VSAD, which is voluntarily stopping eating and drinking. So again, those two latter ones are fairly controversial. If you have more questions, we can talk more about that privately if you have specific questions. But the way that social services would be involved in that is we would quickly encourage you to talk to your physician. This is a conversation that is made with you and your physician. If that conversation goes where a decision is made, how social services would be involved then is that we would support the resident and we would support the resident's decision with what they made with the doctor. So we ensure again that your care aligns with your values and your wishes. From there, what we do is we provide you emotional support. We provide you with a hospice list if that's needed, and then we support the physician through the process. Okay. And then legal rights and protection, bringing it back to the advanced directive, that right there, if we notice that maybe your wishes aren't being followed, then we would bring that up and make sure that we let others know that, hey, this is what they would like, and we would just be able to advocate for you. And raising concerns and responsibility or responsibly is if we do notice that someone has been mistreated or that you are being treated unfairly, then we would discuss this with you, and then it will be confidential and only include those who are in the need to know. Should that be Shelley Smart? Should that be local law enforcement? It will always be confidential. So want to make sure you know that you are safe and you are protected. And then emotional support. So we provide comfort. We help you cope with feelings such as loneliness, sadness, anxiety, and stress. And we listen. Sometimes that might be to sit with you and hear you out. Sometimes it might be to sit with you and nothing is discussed, but just to sit and look out. So we meet with you without judgment. Everyone expresses their emotions differently. We just want you to know you're supported and it's welcomed. We would never force ourselves to come and talk about it. We invite you to come talk to us about it. And then psychosocial support, what that is we look at your social environment. So that would be your relationships, the community that you're in, and your daily surroundings, and how those things impact your well-being. So an example of that would be, let's say you have a peer or a friend that is vibrant, is active, you see them always all around. And then maybe one day they may have lost a loved one and we start to see them retreat a bit, maybe be a little bit quieter, or they might still hang out with everybody, but their posture is a bit different. They're quieter, they're maybe slumping forward. Those are signs of psychosocial distress. If we're aware of that, what we do then is we'll try our best to meet with the resident, find out the root, and then provide the right type of support, whether that's to connect them to our psychologist, if it's short-term counseling where I can talk with them and find out what's going on, and then of course source out to our psychologist. That's something that we do. So we just want to be there to encourage and guide you and get you hopefully to a point where you're back to thriving and leading a quality of life. So another role of social services is we collaborate with residents, families, and other departments as needed and based on the situation. And examples would be care plan meetings, transitions to higher level of living, or resident safety support. Care plan meetings would be if that would typically be with a resident, their DPOA with healthcare. If we recognize that there might be a need that's unmet, then we partner together and we discuss how can we help you, and figure out the next steps, the next plan to ensure that you are living that quality of life. Transitions to higher level of living. Again, it's a conversation with you, with your team, and with our team, which would typically be the health team, our director of wellness, which would be Deanna Lyons, or the director of nursing, which would be Rolene De La Cruz. And then resident safety support. And this is where you come in. So we can collaborate. If you see any of your peers, if you notice that they might be a little off or might not be themselves, then we encourage you to come talk to us about it. And I imagine that it's a bit scary because you may feel that you're betraying a friend or that you're tattling on a friend, but what we see is a person concerned over their peer and their well-being and is letting us know, hey, I'm concerned and I want them to get better. How can you help? So we do that with confidence. So your name will never be brought up in conversation. It will be confidential, and our concern is who we're looking at, how we can help them out at the time. So I do encourage you to come talk to us if there's any concerns. And then lastly, we serve as mandated reporters to ensure safety and well-being. So if we recognize signs of abuse, physical, psychological, sexual, financial, self-neglect, these are serious things. And so what we would do is we are required as mandated reporters to report it to the appropriate authorities, whether that's our local law enforcement, whether it's the Adult Protective Services, APS, the Ombudsman, who is the patient right advocate, and then licensing agencies. So our role would be to report it and then, of course, do it confidentially and advocate for you and your safety. So these things that I share, it does sound like a lot, and you may feel a little unsettled from some of the information I shared, but I want to bring that out to you and know that you are, that this source is available to you and that you have us to reach out to. So here's my contact information if you need it, along with Nancy's. And currently I'm located on, right across from the clinic, and Nancy's located on the 3rd floor, but those will be changing in a little bit. So that's all I got for you. I don't know if you have time for questions, or we could. Okay, yeah, so what we could do is, I've got the information here. If you, can jot that down, and then if you have further questions, I'd love to meet with you and then talk to you further about it. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Is that okay? Oh, thank you.
Eileen was nervous, but I thought she did a fabulous job. Really appreciate everything that you and Nancy do for the residents. And as she said, her office used to be right at the entrance where you go around the corner from the clinic into assisted living second floor lobby. And she'll be moving back there as soon as the furniture arrives. And they've made a new office for Nancy right at the entrance to assisted living where there used to be a receptionist. And they're building a desk for her now. So she's going to be moving down there probably in a couple of weeks. And then the third floor office where Nancy used to be, which is right above the mailboxes, that's going to be the home of our spiritual care director, Dee Cremel. And she's going to be sharing that, as Nancy does now, with the WSRA and our archives. It's getting very crowded. Okay. In the past 5 months, I have visited 6 of our sister life plan communities, and I showed you pictures of 4 of them back in June. In each case, I spoke with the resident councils and with larger resident groups. I talked about where they fit into Human Good and the Human Good Resident Council. And the most common response I got was, I had no idea about any of this. So what I did find reassuring is that they like what they hear. They like the fact that they have all of these resources supporting their community, whether it's the many services of our community support centers or the Sisterhood of Life Plan communities and the ideas that we can share. A few years ago, I had developed a presentation called Who Runs White Sands? Because there was a perception among some residents that the council ran White Sands. And we don't. We do have an important role to play, but Shelley runs White Sands. And so we've had 50 new residents move in since I made that presentation the last time. So I thought it was time to give you a bit of an update of where does White Sands fit into Human Good. First, some useful acronyms. Human Good, Human Good Resident Council, Continuing Care, Retirement Community, which is the old term, but that's where we're licensed as a RCFE, Retirement Community for the Elderly, which is even worse. Life Plan Community, which is a new term, SCPH, Southern California Presbyterian Homes, which is what we used to be part of, and ABHOW, American Baptist Homes of the West. And I'll go back and forth between CCRC and LPC, but they are essentially the same thing. So in 2015, many of you in the room were here, Southern California Presbyterian Homes affiliated with American Baptist Homes of the West. And then in 2000, at that time, we were called B Group here. And in 2017, the combined organization was rebranded as Human Good. And at that time, we were 18 life plan communities, 14 in California and 1 each in Washington, Idaho, Arizona, and Nevada, and 59 affordable housing communities. And then we affiliated with Presby Inspired Life of Pennsylvania, Living Care Yakima, Springhouse Senior Living in Boston, and we purchased Hillside in Oregon from Brookdale. And then combined with 1 sale and 1 closure of the original 18, we are now 23 life plan communities and 101 affordable housing communities. So from 2 entities with communities in 5 states, we now represent affiliations with 6 entities and communities in 8 states. And we are the 6th largest nonprofit senior living organization in the country. And according to our CEO, John Cochran, we will continue to grow slowly and carefully. These are the current life plan communities within Human Good. White Sands opened in 1956, which makes us the 5th oldest in terms of founding dates, which range from 1901 to 2020. And at around 270 residents, we're about average in size, considering our communities range from 60 residents to well over 600. Suffice it to say, no two of us are alike, and we like being unique, but we are the only one that is literally on the beach. Human Goods corporate structure includes an overarching board of 7 members, 12 separate governing boards for the various life plan communities, and a board that oversees affordable housing. And there are also 3 foundations associated with the life plan communities with their own boards. And as I said earlier, Carolyn Downey is currently the chair of the Human Good Foundation South and West boards. And this slide shows the, in orange are the life plan communities associated with each of the blue governing boards. We're in the second column under Human Good SoCal. Essentially, that is what was Southern California Presbyterian Homes. And the management of Human Good is led by President and CEO John Cochran. And John's on the left, and Shelley reports directly to Dan Ogus, who is the Chief Operating Officer. Dan started here as in the dining department here 31 years ago, I believe. As soon as the affiliation between SCPH and ABHAL was announced, some of us began advocating, to create a collective resident council, modeled on a similar one started back in 1990 by 4 Southern California Presbyterian Homes communities. And our own Mary Hegler was involved in getting that started. In April 2018, the resident councils of the communities adopted bylaws, and we named our first officers with me as chair, and I'm still chair today. Like its predecessor, the Human Good Resident Council was created to bring resident issues before the Life Plan Community Governing Boards and the Human Good Board. To represent the residents of all Human Good CCRCs and promote their welfare, to work with Human Good management to ensure continued compliance with resident rights afforded by applicable law, to represent resident interests and opinions and facilitate communication. And our key objectives are to be a sounding board to Human Good leadership, to bring resident ideas, issues, and suggestions to leadership, to participate in the development, testing, and evaluation of new programs affecting residents, and to help define and support the mission and vision, of Human Good. A secondary but important role of the Human Good Resident Council is to bring news from the board and the leadership team back to our communities. We recognize that most people in our life plan communities are only interested in how things are working there. But it's important that the Human Good Resident Council understands the role and purpose of Human Good and can share this with residents in their communities. And having followed the growth of Human Good in the past 8 years, I can say that we are in much stronger shape financially, and we have an exceptional leadership team at the helm. Earlier, I showed you the corporate structure, and where you ask, where are residents in this? Okay, there are 2 ways that residents show up. Each life plan community appoints a representative to the Human Good Resident Council. Typically, it's the president of the resident council, but it could be the vice president or a past council member, somebody who's interested in both the larger picture as well as the welfare of their own community. And we are invited to all of the governing board meetings, but we are non-voting members. And additionally, there are voting resident representatives who sit on the governing boards for Human Good SoCal, Human Good NorCal, and Human Good Fresno. And this voting resident representatives are a requirement of the state of California. And the residents in the life plan communities in each group nominate people and put the name forward to the Human Good Board, which actually elects the representative. I'm pleased to say that Irene Feller is in her second 3-year term, serving as the voting resident representative for the Human Good SoCal communities. And she is also, nothing to do with that, but she is also a member of the Human Goods Finance and Investment Committee, because she made such a contribution as a voting resident representative, right? Over the past month, you've been hearing about partnerships, resident team member partnerships. And this chart depicts the ones that we have today. Importantly, they all also offer opportunities for more residents to participate in the collective work of human good. Some of these committees seek representation from each of our 23 communities, while others have a smaller membership. Currently, for White Sands, Richard Stoller and Brian Smith are our representatives to the SEPS committee, which works to make Tubago more effective for residents. Carolyn Shadle is our representative on the Resident Inclusion Committee, and she was the original co-chair. Carol Studebaker is our representative on the Environmental Sustainability Action Committee. And Brian Smith is going to be taking over from Jay Coonan as our representative to the new RAISE committee, which stands for Resident Advisory on Innovative Services and Experiences. And then Catherine Mills is our representative for the Southern California Life Plan communities on the new Resident Dining Advisory Committee. I am a member of the liaison team, and I also am an observer to the RAISE committee. This is the history of when these various partnerships were formed. When I reported on these back in April, I had forgotten to include the Resident Inclusion Committee. And that started in 2022. It works alongside the Human Good Inclusion Council, which is a staff entity, to build community culture and environment strong in diversity, equity, and inclusion, to enhance a sense of belonging for those who work and live in our communities. I know diversity, equity, and inclusion are not good words to use in some communities, but they are still very much the underpinning of the Inclusion Committee at Human Good. And all of these efforts are shepherded by the liaison team, which is a group of resident leaders who originally volunteered to represent geographic clusters of our life plan communities. Our original cluster includes Redwood Terrace, Regents Point, Royal Oaks, and Westminster Gardens. Again, the former Southern California Presbyterian Homes Group. And we meet monthly with key members of the operations team to tackle and resolve issues that are common across our communities. And I'm very pleased to say that we will be shortly debuting a quarterly publication on the partnerships. This is going to be shared with the Human Good Board, the leadership team, executive directors, resident councils, and ultimately all residents in our life plan communities. And then one other very important role of the council is to learn from one another and share best practices. And I've now visited 22 of our 23 life plan communities. We all have our own flavor, we all have our own style, our way of doing things, but we share many things in common. And while we will never get our resident councils to all have the same election cycle or structure, what is happening in one community can give ideas and precedent for what you would like to do in yours. We don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If somebody's got a good idea, we're happy to adapt it. And these are some of the topics that we have compared and contrasted. White Sands, for example, Redwood Terrace wanted to start a finance and budget committee, so we gave them the outline of our committee and they adapted it to create their own. Regents Point is now using guidelines from our policies and procedures, guidelines from White Sands and Valverde in Santa Barbara to redo their policies and procedures, committees, and other governing principles. We took some information from Piedmont Gardens in Oakland as a starting point for our end-of-life planning committee. and programs. And now the mansion at Rosemont in Bryn Mawr is taking our ideas and those from Piedmont Gardens, and they're creating their own committee and program. And then most recently, 10 of our life plan communities brainstormed to develop a sustainability mission statement. This was adopted by the entire Human Good Resident Council and was presented to the Human Good Board and governing boards in July as the basis for a corporate sustainability mission statement. So I like to think of us as a sisterhood. We're all unique, but we are stronger together and we're a great resource for each other. And we are, I would have to say, having been to 22 communities, we are the crown jewel of Human Good. Thank you. That concludes Get It Straight today. I want to thank you for coming, and I want to give you a heads up. In September, we are going to change the day from the third Thursday to the third Wednesday, because John Cochran is going to be here on September 17th to spend the day and be our special guest. He's going to have a meeting with the team members and lunch, and then he's going to be our guest at Get It Straight. Shelley and I have invited him to talk about where Human Good is now, where it's going, and how we're doing. And then we'll have a reception for all of the residents to meet John. And he goes by John, he doesn't go by Mr. Cochran. And then the resident council will be having dinner with him. So September 17th, I encourage you all to come. And John is a very, very engaging speaker, and I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, but do come and listen to what he has to say. I think you'll be very encouraged. And remember, on the way to dinner tonight or on the way home, you can see the latest edition of the All Resident slideshow. And if you don't like your picture, bring me another one. Thank you.